welcome to all the members and delegates present here. On behalf of the entire ICAI fraternity, I welcome you all to the 21st World Congress of Accountants, which is indeed an historic moment as for the first time in 118 years, India and ICAI is delighted to host this 21st World Congress of Accountants here in Mumbai, India. Celebrating ideas for future, the World Congress this time would dwell upon the theme building trust enabling sustainability, keeping in mind the important role accountancy profession is playing as the protector of public interest. And today, right here, we've all gathered for a very enlightening session on a knowledge-based national standard setter, for which we have a very esteemed panelists among us, and a very great round of applause for them as I now invite them on stage. CA AC Chakrabortti, past president of ICAI. A great round of applause. Sir, can we please have you on stage? We also have among us CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, Chairman of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board and Internal Audit Standards Board. A great round of applause. Very warm welcome, sir. I now invite CA Mangesh P. Kinare, Chairman of the Ethical Standards Board and Valuation Standards Board. A great round of applause, please. I now invite on stage CA Pramod Jain, Chairman of the Accounting Standards Board. I now invite on stage CA Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singhal ji, Chairman of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board and Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. A great round of applause, please. And now I invite on stage CA Gyan Misra ji, who's the Vice Chairman of the Internal Audit Standards Board. Now, without wasting any further minute, I would now be requesting CA AC Chakrabortti ji, who's the past president, to please deliver his address to us all.
Namaskar. Good morning. My esteemed panel colleagues, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. I indeed feel honored to have been invited to address this distinguished gathering on the subject ICAI, a knowledge-based national standard setter. I welcome you all to this session, and a special welcome to those delegates who have come here from distant lands, including those who are attending to this function on virtual mode. I hope it will be a fruitful journey and go back with memories on which you can resonate in your later life. Ours is a very large country with diverse cultures, traditions, and spiritual philosophies. Spiritually speaking, you'll be amazed to know that a scripture book called Rig Ved, which was written 4,000 years back, in which stanza 89 says, let all noble thoughts and ideas come to us from all sides. Today, the corporate world, all management institutes, research organizations are raising the same issue and seeking response thereto. So far as the subject matter of this discussion is concerned, based on my long experience, I think the standard setting is a very onerous and difficult task. And for setting the standards, one must have some definitive, qualitative standards. And these are, based on my knowledge, I would say, alertness. Secondly, perception to realities. Thirdly, a strong knowledge base, wisdom, farsightedness, and a collaborative approach towards all stakeholders. And lastly, a dominant will to implement. I think the ICAI possesses all these qualities on the basis of which all the standard frameworks have been built over a period of 75 years. We have very great research center, and we are going to establish a technology center which will be an unique one with housing facilities for all research students, whether they're chartered accountants, economists, or others. On this background, I would like to say that the accounting standard is the mother of all standards, because all other standards, they follow or consequential to the mother standard. So I'll start with the mother standard, accounting standard, and my first brush with the International Accounting Standard Board was in 1987, when I was a member of the governing committee, member of the International Federation of Accountants. And by that time, the International Accounting Standard, who had built 25 standards, which they have issued, they were in favor of adoption by all the member countries. But I opposed it on the ground because the developing countries must give time. And a roadmap should be built up because they would need to prepare themselves for adoption purposes. I also told them that the standards that you are building up, the English is so perfect that many of the developing country members may not even understand it, and they may have to take the help of the college professors to understand the interpretation of all the standards that you are building up. And the qualities that I have mentioned here, it's like winning a battle. If you read the books, a Chinese general 400 years back, who had written a book, Art of War, and in which all these qualities the general must possess to win the war. So, what battles are we going to face? I think the Institute and the members are going to face two battles: technological changes, and secondly, I think the climate change, which will have devastating effect on our lifetime. You see? In fact, in the case of the chartered accounting profession, they will undergo a big change. All big firms, they may have to bring a structural change in this, that 30% of their members will be technical people, and 60% to 70% will be chartered accountants and belonging to other profession. So it will be a big structural change in our profession. Knowing this, in the case of the small companies, small farms, which will not be able to afford the investment in equipments, tools, which are necessary for becoming a technology-based farm, the Institute came forward to buy the equipments and lease it out to the small farms so that they can avail of the opportunity to take up the matters and compete in the market situation. So far as the standards are concerned, I think in 2014, USA was the last country, you can say last pillar of post, which agreed to a full adoption. In India, adopted on the basis of a mandatory notice issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in 2015. And from then, we have proceeded. If this transition has been successful, it was because of the strenuous and intensive efforts made by our institute. We have 400,000 members, 4 lakh members, 400,000 members to educate them, to train them. In the process of transition, the institute had to hold 500 seminars, conferences all over India to educate and train our members, corporate bodies. And that is how the success came in the transition and in converging with the FIRS, which is synonymous with our Indian AS. So far, it was all right. And along with this, we had Auditing Standards Committee. Fortunately, all my panelists are here, and I don't have to discuss any of these details. But this Auditing Standard Committee also brought out those standards in harmony with the institutional Auditing Standard Committee. Likewise, the Ethics Committee, we realized as a member of the Institute that trust and faith are fundamental to our profession. And without that two important conditions, and without the confidence of the corporate bodies and the public, the profession cannot survive. That has been the basic concepts of the growth of the profession. And therefore, the Ethical Standards Committee had also issued its standards on the basis of the situation that is prevailing. Realizing the importance of the internal audit, I think the Institute has also started International Auditing Standard Board. And I think the internal auditors today, having worked as a chairman and as the director of large number of companies during last 20 years after retirement by profession, I have realized the internal auditor plays today a greater role than the statutory auditors, really. Because they know the inside and outside of the country. They can really become consultant, give the warning signals to the management, how to improve, and also how to warrant yourself against all the difficulties and complications which may arise in the future circumstances. So these are some of the standards which are brought out. Institute has brought out a standard on valuation, a standard on digital accounting. In fact, so many new companies are coming up, cryptocurrency, digital currency. These are going to be matter of future concern, and these are the things which are going to prevail. Because of the technological changes, cyber security problem will also become a very important issue to deal with. I'm sure the Institute will take care of these factors in due course, and if necessary, relative standards will also be brought forward. But still, there are several other areas which I'd like to comment on, and it is this. All the standards have been issued over a period of time. Some of them are possibly becoming obsolete. The new technological changes that have come up, to what extent they should be integrated. And the second point is this: inflation is spreading all over the world. In some of the countries, it has already been considered as hyperinflationary in measure. Similarly, recession in some countries are looming large. So these are the areas of importance. And during this period, Institute will have to think how to change the inflation standard. In these difficult times, business people will face tremendous problems so far as cash flow is concerned. So the cash flow standard will become very important, and it will need revision so as to meet with the changing circumstances and the challenges which lie in the future. I think these are the important elements which have to be considered in the future. In order to ensure that the public gets the benefit of the Institute's services in the field of the climate change, the Institute has also started a separate body and a separate standard body called the Sustainability Reporting Standard. And sustainability has three important pillars which have to be safeguarded if we have to fight the climate changes. These are environment, society, and economy. These are three important pillars which are to be dealt with by this standard on sustainability. It will require all-round qualitative approach, a collaborative approach amongst all the stakeholders in order to make a successful standard for this purpose. I should go further, which is another again advanced step taken by the Institute. Many of the non-profit making organizations, they are involved largely in the services sector. And their help and the services they render, they really help the poor people who are below the poverty line. So in order to enable them to raise funds, India is already decided to start a new stock exchange so that it will be called a social stock exchange, so that these NBFCs, so that this non-profit making organization can raise funds in that stock exchange and they can use that money for the benefit of the poor. So this is a big step forward, and the Institute will have some particular courses designed for this purpose, who will be called social auditor and who will be given appropriate certification for this purpose. This is a completely new idea which will be a safeguard for the future purposes. I think we shall have to ensure, because we are serving the social cause, that we deliver our product with the best of integrity and independence. But the ultimate question comes to my mind, now that I'm a very old man, and after having dealt with the standards all these years, where do we go from here? Why the standards are not built in a way so that it can give warning signals for the future? I shall therefore say it is for consideration as to whether the new theme for building the structure of the standard should be standards for survival and standard for survival and the standard for sustainability. In other words, I want to bring into the picture that survival is the basic requirement of a standard, You see, it is, unless this is there, all the standards will be really in the pages of books. We chartered accountants will only adhere to the standards as a part of the checklist without understanding where are we going from. What is the basic objective of standard? I think the basic objective should be to forewarn the management against the challenges and the disaster they faces. So I have indicated the various standards which are in operation in India, and all my panelists, they are experts in the field. I must say at my age, it is not possible for me to be the expert in standards in all these areas, but they will clarify each of them separately with the standards, the objectives, the information systems that they prevail in respect of each of these standards, and to what extent they are benefiting the corporate world and the public. Lastly, India had it never so good as it is today. India is progressing at a very fast pace. I shall not see it possibly, but I could say that in 10 years' time or 5 years' time, India will be one of the leading industrialized and most developed countries of the world. And in this endeavor of India, the chartered accountants who have got, I think, 380,000 people as chartered accountants, 800,000 students, I call them a big army of people who are educated, highly qualified, who are expert, experienced people. And if we join together and give the help to our government, to our people in achieving the objective of becoming a leader in the world's forum, I think Institute will have a very rewarding experience. We have had an association of 45 years with IFC. We have worked closely with IFFC. And I have no doubt, as we gain strength economically as otherwise, we shall continue to be a player in the accounting field and provide the necessary help to IFC so that IFSC can see more glorious days, and we shall not be failing in serving IFC in achieving its objectives. Thank you, gentlemen, for listening to me, and also those who have come to this country, let them have a safe return to their country. And God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us your experience and wisdom. A great round of applause, please. And now it's my honor to now invite CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, Chairman of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board and Internal Audit Standards Board, to please deliver his address.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My two all past presidents, chairman of boards, vice chairman of boards, all delegates from around the globe, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to come and speak to you on the basic topic of indulgence of India, and particularly ICAI as a knowledge-based national standards setters. You are all aware that ICAI is doing this work since long. I chair two boards, Internal Audit Standard Board and Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. So first of all, let us discuss the forensic accounting and investigation standards. First time in the globe, 23 forensic accounting and investigation standards have been promulgated by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And I want you to visit and take your copy of compendium. The copy of all standards are there at the pavilion of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that when you go ahead in formulation of standards, you have to understand a few things. As a national standard setter, you need to look at the customs, the policies, the usages, the normal business propositions that are carried over into the respective countries. That is why when we went for convergence with IFRS, we looked into the local things and carved out Ind AS. Why do we need the standards of forensic accounting and what are the overall objectives? The first, we have to codify the best practices. International best practices have to be codified. We have to have clarity on expectations and attributes. And more importantly, we have to set common terminology. The definitions have to be amply clear. You have to set basic quality benchmarks of service, benchmarking at international levels, and how you could create such standards which are difficult to breach. Harmonize and improve performance. Standards are there to harmonize the entire process, to define the process and ultimately culminate by reporting which has to be totally in sync with the expectations of the stakeholders. Provide knowledge and guidance to people who intend to be a part of that assignment. Set and evaluate level of performance. That level has to be benchmarked. And more importantly, protect the ICAI brand, because people who are members of ICAI doing certain level of expertise is expected of them. If I go for forensic accounting and investigative standards overview, first, we have overarching documents. They are 3. Second, we have the 100 series which speaks of key concepts. The third is 200 series which speaks of the engagement management, how engagement is created, how it is management, how the engagement letters are exchanged. The 300 series is executive assignments. The 400 series is specialized areas, made be on evidences, made be on prosecution document writing. The 500 is on reporting, and 600, the mother of all standards, the quality standards. Now, forensic audit. There is difference between audit, investigation, and fraud. If you speak about forensic audit, audit ultimately ends by creating an opinion. So it is not forensic audit. It is forensic accounting, because when you work, you are able to gather certain evidences which are ultimately presented to the court of law, to the prosecuting agencies for proper adjudication. Ladies and gentlemen, difference between forensic versus audit versus forensics versus investigations. Now, please understand one thing very candidly. Statutory audit is mandated by law. Internal audit, but partially legal, and essentially it is a management function. When you come to forensic audit, it is specific, certain area which needs to be processed. The entire processes, the entire outflow and inflow of money has to be taken into account. Investigations, very, very important. How you have to look at the terms of reference, work in tandem with the thought process. Statutory audit, I told you, the only important thing is that the outcome of statutory audit is audit report qualification, subject to or respect, and your qualification or your opinion which you express. Internal audit, the outcome is summary of findings with fraud indicators, red flags. Yes, where the control environment gets weaker, there it invites frauds to occur. Now, when you come to forensic accounting, the outcome is present evidence to a court of law and let the court of law judge on the basis of the documents, informations, testimonies which is presented to them. Investigation, essentially the outcome is summary of findings and conclusions. No opinion or guilt or innocence. It is only a summary, and let that summary culminate into a proper educated. Now I come on to the internal audit. Internal audit, if you look at the legal framework of internal audit in India, Section 138 of Companies Act 1956 mandates it. Yes, requirement of internal audit in Caro. Third, clause 49 of the listing agreement, which says that the audit committee shall essentially review the adequacy of internal audits. Ladies and gentlemen, I would draw your attention at a very particular thing here. Earlier, with respect to ASB or AASB, we had to refer ourselves, we have to take guidance from International Accounting Standard Board or International AASB. But today, in case of forensic or in internal audit standards, it is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is creating a knowledge base of professionals who create these standards. We discuss it thoroughbred, then we give it to the public exposure, and ultimately the council mandates it and they are presented to the membership. Requirements of internal audit of stockbrokers, clearing members on half-yearly basis. Requirement of quality of quarterly internal audit of insurers. So specifically, certain areas are being called for. Now, the entire governance, landscape of corporate governance is changing. Now, they want internal audit to come out and define. Internal audit is answerable to the board, to the audit committee, as the case may be. And please understand, it does not only serve the clients or the stakeholders, but is answerable to the regulators and government as well. There are certain class of companies which have to take internal audit, but essentially, when I come to the standards, the board has envisaged that there have to be 40 standards. Out of 40, 22 are issued with the mandate of the Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Ladies and gentlemen, you would agree that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India was set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949, when the most important document to the democracy, the Constitution, was not adopted. You are all well aware that the Constitution to this great country was promulgated on 26 January 1950. The pertinent question that arises is, what prompted the Constituent Assembly to set up an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India when its own democratic setup was not in place? The answer is very candid, very simple, very forthcoming. They were looking for a disciplined band of soldiers to steer this country on the path of progress. Yes, internal audit standards, forensic audit standards move in these lines. I told you 22 standards out of 40 have been issued. 13 are on the line of getting revised. We are working on that. And 5 old standards are moving ahead for their further inclusion after the study group finalizes it. Now, coming on to my conclusion, we have again numbered this. The 100 series speaks on standards or key concepts. The 200 series speaks on standards on internal audit management. 300, 400 series speaks of standards on the conduct of audit assignment, which is essentially the most important one, because each and everything needs to be outlined so as to inculcate the right sense of doing a professional assignment and presenting it to the stakeholders. 500 series speaks of standards on specialized areas. 600 series speaks of standards on quality control, and 700 we have kept for miscellaneous matters which may arise anytime. The key takeovers, please understand the IEF framework, how the work is done. Judicially use the standards, you have to understand where which standard has to be used. Consult when in doubt, the institute is there, the board is there at your beck and call. Focus on basics, understand how interpretational issues have to be dealt with. Evolve and elevate. You evolve and get up. That is the basic instinct of life. Share and collaborate what you intend to have. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I say goodbye to you, I want to tell you that the profession of accountancy will only reach newer heights when proper honing of technical skills and your knowledge base shall increase. I'm reminded of a couplet which I would share with you. I see so many foreign delegates, but it is in Hindi. The couplet says, "Gar khairat mein milti kamyabi to har shakhs kamyab hota. Gar khairat mein milti kamyabi to har shakhs kamyab hota. फिर कदर ना होती किसी हुनर की और ना ही कोई लाजवाब होता. If you want to work up to the highest pinnacle of success, please be technically compliant and ensure that the best practices prevalent are an integral part of your conduct of professional assignments. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us such wonderful insights on this session. Moving forward, I would now be requesting CA Pramod Jain, Chairman of the Accounting Standards Board, to please address the audience. A great round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. The past president of the institute, on the dais, of the dais, two past presidents, I can see my present council colleagues on the dais, of the dais, and the past council colleagues, I can see the secretary of ICAI, the national and international delegates. Namaste to all. Welcome to you all to this 21st World Congress of Accountants. And when we say accountants, the base starts with accounting. Thereafter comes taxation, audit, everything. So start is with the accounting. And in ICI, I'm chairing the Accounting Standard Board. So let us see that what our institute, the ICI in India, is playing a role in the standard setting, which may be in various jurisdictions. You can see that how it is similar in your jurisdiction as well as in India. So if I talk about, yes, my colleague said that this institute, our institute was set up in 1949. And when the International Accounting Standards Committee was set up in 1973, ICI became a part of it in 1974. Accounting was already the basic thing of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, but emphasizing upon standard setting role, which was already there in one of the committees. A separate board was set up in 1977, the Accounting Standard Boards, which was entrusted with the terms, with the role of standard setting in India. So yes, on 21st of April 1977, the Accounting Standard Boards in ICI was set up, and today too, this board ICI in ICI is not only the foremost standard setter in India, but also I would say in implementing it, disseminating the knowledge, and ensuring through the other boards like Auditing and Assurance Standard Board to see that the accounting standards which are being set up are being implemented thoroughly and complied with. So the ASB is playing a very important role in the standard setting process in India. If I see the journey, so yes, 1977, the Accounting Standard Board, it was set up. So in 1979, it was first when the preface to the statements of accounting standards and the AS1 was issued by ICI. But, you know, accounting was already there, which is there in various jurisdictions also. But making it mandatory for the first time in India, it was in 1987 when AS4 and AS5 was made mandatory. That is the event occurring after the balance sheet date, prior period contingencies. Now, at that time, if I see in India, the institute, the ASB, I would say, through the ASB, these standards were made mandatory. And later on, if I say in 1991 also further standards were made mandatory, which is there on your slide. But the regulators are totally different. So when the standards were made mandatory, so various business houses, corporate, they said it is mandatory for the accountants, the chartered accountants, not for the corporates. So what was the role that when the auditors were auditing the financial statements, they had to ensure that the financial statements are complied with those accounting standards because of the institute is regulating the chartered accountants in India. So they had to ensure that the accounting standards are complied with. But gaining that prominence, the regulators, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is our parent body, they set up that yes, the corporates should ensure that their financial statement, when they have to give a true and fair view, they have to be accounting standard compliant. So in 1998-99, through the Companies Act, the accounting standard issued by ICAI were made mandatory to be complied with. And in 2006, they notified the Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006, which was again through the ICAI. So the journey continued, and later on, when IFRS came, so India also agreed that they would be IFRS compliant. So the target date, which was fixed in 2011 to be complied with. And with the commitment of the government, the institute, the Accounting Standard Board, they ensured that there were two choices in India. Either have the IFRS as it is, or make it a convergent. So seeing that Indian scenario, various jurisdictions having a different thing. So in India, we made a convergence, certain carve-outs. Seeing the Indian jurisdiction, the business, the prevalency out here, the legal laws. So India is IFRS compliant, but it is converged IFRS. And we are here committed to remain converged with IFRS. So 2015, it was made voluntary, 2016, mandatory for certain entities, not all entities, of course, like in various jurisdictions. In India, I would say it is mandatory on the listed entities, listed companies, as well as the companies whose net worth is 250 crores and above. Their holding subsidiary, associates, and joint ventures. Only those are to be IFRS compliant, that is Ind AS. All others different. I'll be coming to that slide. So the journey of the Accounting Standard Board is continuing, and amendments to the standards, whether they are AS or the Ind AS, IFRS, they still continue through the Accounting Standard Board. So in India, I would say again there are three set of accounting standards. One for companies and other for non-companies. Like in various jurisdictions, there are proprietorships, partnerships, all type of entities are there. So in India also it is there. So when I talk about companies, two set of accounting standards, and both under the Companies Act, because it is for companies. So one, as I said, it is the IFRS, that which is the Ind AS, where I say that it is for 250 crores and above, if I say $30 million approximately. So unlisted companies, all listed companies, yes. So listed companies with $30 million, their holding associate, joint ventures or subsidiaries, they have to comply with Ind AS mandatorily. All others, it is the Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2021, which were the old compliance of the International Accounting Standards, IAS. For all others, the SMEs, I would say, that is the proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnerships, HUF, societies, or any other, which are not in companies. For that, still, the accounting standard issued by ICAI to the ASB, those are mandatory. And those are actually a bit similar to, I would say, with small differences, certain exemptions, similar to the smaller companies, the non-Ind AS companies accounting standards. So three set of accounting standards. Again, I say, one is IFRS, which is Ind AS, I would say, IFRS compliant for the listed and less than more than 250 crores net worth, $30 million, their holding subsidiary associates, and others, the company, the smaller entities, it is the Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2021, and the proprietorship. Again, for the proprietorship partnership, again, the whole thing goes that it is mandatory for the auditors to see when the financial statements are prepared, they are accounting standard compliant, and if they are not, then they have to qualify the report. I don't know, various jurisdictions are having still that all companies are, all entities are not required to comply with IFRS. The other accounting standards, jurisdiction-wise, it could be different. You know, when we say accounting standards, the compliance thereof, where to see? It is the financial statements. So the financial statements also, it has to be ensured that they are accounting standard compliant. So in India, I would say, in India jurisdiction, if it is a company, the financial statements are prescribed under the Companies Act to the Schedule 3. So they have to follow the same format. The framework thereof, the framework for the preparation and presentation of the financial statements, again issued by ICAI for both AS and the Ind AS. But for the non-corporates, proprietorship, partnerships, limited liabilities, for them, the financial statements formats have been prescribed by this board ASB. So overall accountancy, the accounting standards, everything in India is being, I would say, set to be complied with by the ICAI through the Accounting Standard Board. And when we say the Ind AS, we follow the same system that when we are setting those Ind AS, the IFRS compliance, we study the IFRS, take what are the carve outs we need, and we again and again study, okay, why this carve out, we can remove that carve out. So that process is a continuous process which we are going. And India is IFRS compliant and would always try and remain converged with IFRS for the higher entities, the listed entities. ASB through ICAI through in the ASB, we are participating in all the international standard setting activities, whether it is the research, whether it is standard setting process, or even the PIRs. So there is any document which is published by the IFRS or the IFAC or any other standard, international standard bodies, ASB is making comments, presenting their comments on each and every document which is there. We are participating. ICAI has been the vice chair of the AOSSG in 2017 to 19 and the chair in 2019-21. The Asian Oceanic Standard Setters, they were having a meeting a few days back in Nepal, which ended on 16th of November itself. And also we are always a member and participating in the emerging economies group, the EEG, the IFAS, the IFRS Advisory Council, SMEG. The ASB is contributing and participating in all those international standard relating activities. ICAI through ASB, for any accounting matter, is engaging with the regulators, whether it is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, whether it is for the banks, NBFCs through the RBI, whether it is the listed entities through the Securities and Exchange Control Board of India, SEBI, or even the IRDA insurance, or even any other ministry, civil aviation, or any other ministry. So any ministry, any PSU, any corporate, any non-corporate, any NGO, they want any issue to be discussed on the accounting, we are always there to help them out there, the ASB of ICAI out here in India. And of course, whenever there is an exposure draft, nationally or internationally, we make our stakeholders participate into it. We expose it for the public for their comments. We formulate study groups to study those issues and then bring out through that board and then disseminate that knowledge to that. Even the tentative agenda decisions of the IFRS, it is discussed threadbare in our ASB out here. Again, as I said, it is not only about standard setting, but ensuring that the capacity is built. The initiatives are being taken by the institute through various publications, the guidance note, technical guides, the education materials. Everything is shared with the members and made available both nationally and internationally on our website, which I'll be sharing in the last slide. So various implementation, I would say, initiatives through lectures, through digital learning hub, which we have, which can be viewed by any member. Not only member, even internationally you can see. So what are all the resources for relating to accounting standards? You can have it through our own website, which is, I would say, the asb.ici.org. So anything which is Ind AS, the AS, you can just go through this website and you can have that whole knowledge gateway about it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thought-provoking address. Moving forward, I would now be inviting CA Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singhal ji, Chairman of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board and Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. Great round of applause, please.
A very good morning to you all, friends, the Honorable Past President, my esteemed panelists, my esteemed colleagues, and friends from India and overseas. Welcome to the 21st World Congress of Accountant. And you have heard the theme, Building Trust, Enabling Sustainability. And this World Congress is sustainable. The first ever World Congress of Accountants, which is carbon neutral. And we have offset 8,000 metric tons of the carbon emission, which are being generated by virtue of scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. We have taken care of all the national and international travel carbon offsets, the food that you eat, the hotel where you stay, the delegate kit that you receive. Everything has been taken care of, and it is the world's largest event which is carbon neutral. So we are enabling sustainability, and I'm here to present the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India as a standard setter for sustainability and auditing and assurance standards. I'll not call it only a national standard setter, although that's the theme, because we lead internationally as far as sustainability is concerned, and we really take pride in that, friends. And please do visit the stall of the Sustainability Reporting Standard Board and the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board at the ICAI Pavilion on the ground floor. There are very, very large number of prizes to be won, over 2,000 prizes for giving the right answers on sustainability and the auditing standards. Friends, the sustainability momentum in India started with 2009, and now what we have from this year, a mandatory regime whereby 1,000 listed companies by the market capitalization have to report from this year BRSR, which is business responsibility and sustainability reporting. So before the whole world makes it mandatory, India has already done it without waiting for the ISSB standards. And as I said, we believe in leading by example. While the ISSB has set up the standard 1 year ago, our Sustainability Reporting Standard Board is 2.5 years ago. And we take pride in saying that we are leading globally. For example, this World Congress of Accountant, as I said, is carbon neutral. We hold the chair for the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development ISR 39 session from 1st November of this year for 1 year. We had a seat on the table at COP27. We hold the chair at the SAFA Sustainability Committee. We hold a chair at SEBI Social Stock Exchange Advisory Committee, SEBI Technical Group on Social Stock Exchange, and we are working with the IFAC, PAFA, SAFA, UNDP, ISSB, ICAW, SEBI, NISM, CII, FICCI, SOCHM, IFSCA, RBI, and NITI Aayog as far as sustainability is concerned. We have some world-class publications, and we can now say that India has given to the world the first ever assurance standard on sustainability, SSAE 3000, which has enabled limited as well as reasonable assurance on the ESG information. We have launched the certificate course on BRSR, and 13 batches have been completed. Over 1,000 trained chartered accountants are available to render advisory and the assurance on sustainability reporting. We have a publication on accountants creating a sustainable world in 3 volumes, and we have given also the first ever sustainability reporting maturity model, whereby the enterprises can benchmark themselves on the sustainability requirements. And for the board members, we have a publication, FAQ on sustainability reporting at the heart of good governance. This model was hosted by the IFAC on their website, and now we have come out with version 2.0. On the capacity building, again, we are leading by example, and we have also run a carbon footprint challenge for our members, where the members have given suggestion how they are reducing the carbon emission at their own offices. We have also a video film in Hindi and English on building a healthier, happier, and safer planet. We also made 17 videos on each sustainable development goal, and all the council colleagues are basically, wearing this SDG lapel pin, which depicts the 17 sustainable development goals. And friends, each of these video talks about the role of the professional accountants in sustainability. And we are undertaking awareness initiative even among the school kids of first standard so that the culture of sustainability is imbibed on them. To encourage the corporates, last year we launched the Sustainability Reporting Awards, both national and international. And the jury for the international award comprises of people from the World Economic Forum, from the United Nations, and from the IFAC. We also held the ESG Roundtable, disrupting the boardrooms in the 4 major cities in India for the CFOs, CEOs, and the independent directors. We also created the world's first ever 16 social audit standards and have formed Institute of Social Auditors of India. Now the not-for-profit organization as well as the for-profit social organizations can list themselves in India on the social stock exchange and raise debt as well as equity capital. And these 16 social audit standards are again the first one in the world. We are leading in the research. We are working with the UNDP. We are working on many research projects on green finance, circular economy, and others. And now we are coming up with an ESG talk show on a business television in India. Friends, now let me briefly talk about the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board also. As Pramod Jain ji talked about ASB, let me talk about AASB. This is a core function. Chartered accountants are known as auditors, and we are now fully converged with the international auditing standards. And the objective and functions of AASB is to review the existing and emerging audit practices, identify areas in which standards can be issued, formulate new revised engagement and quality control standards, formulate new and review existing guidance notes, and formulate the other non-authoritative literature. For example, recently we have come out with the guidance on the assembly of audit files, and we are working on the KPIs. Our capital market regulator is mandating the disclosure of the key performance indicator in the filing documents, and we have prepared a technical guide for our members to report on the same. We are now undertaking research in the field of auditing on dissemination of knowledge. We have done 99 programs in this last 8 months, in which more than 100,000 members have attended on a physical and virtual mode. And we are contributing on all the international platforms and working very closely with the regulators. We have total 46 standards, out of which there is 1 SQC, 38 standards on auditing, 2 review engagement standards, 3 assurance engagement standards, and 2 standards on the related services. We have 4 industry-specific guidance notes, 31 generic guidance notes, 18 implementation guide, 9 technical guides, and 10 other publications. In all, 72 these publications, and overall 118. We believe in being the best, and this World Congress of Accountant is also an example, a step in that direction. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views in this session. I would now be inviting CA Mangesh P. Ji, Chairman of the Ethical Stance Board and Valuation Stance Board. A great round of applause, please.
Thank you. Respected past President A.C. Chakrabortti ji on dais. Sorry. Past President sir on the dais. Another past President of the dais, my colleagues in the council, Secretary of the Institute, secretaries of the various committees of the Institute, ladies and gentlemen, participants from India and abroad, welcome to World Congress of Accountants in Mumbai. I'm from Mumbai, so I should say welcome, namaskar. Friends, I'm here, as has been mentioned, as a chairman of Ethical Standard Board and Valuation Standard Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. In my brief talk, I'll be enlightening you about both the standard setting boards of the Institute. But friends, I would like to invite you to ICAI Pavilion, where you can get information and publications of all the standard setting boards in one place. Ethical standards, one perhaps feels that whether there should be standards per se for ethics, because ethics are supposed to be imbibed in us and will be following, we are required to follow and we are expected to follow ethics as a public accountant. But as for the public perceptions and conscience, it is necessary to have some kind of a principle-based, at least ethical standards. And that's how ISBA has set up certain ethical standards and principle-based ethical standards. In India, friends, you may be knowing that it has its own structure. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India itself has been formed, unlike most of the accounting bodies, under the Act of the Parliament. So we have been ruled by this Act and we have to follow this Act. Naturally, there has to be some principle-based as well as rule-based standards for ethics also. You'll be interested to know that in 1949, when our Act came into existence, Chartered Accountants Act 1949, we already had schedules to that Act providing for misconducts under Section 22. And there was already certain principles like communications, independence, explained in the Act as early as 1949. So, Indian Chartered Accountant Institute has been following these ethics, one can say the principles of ethics as well as rules of ethics from 1949. Now, as far as Ethical Standard Board is concerned, you will be again interested to know that Code of Ethics per se came into existence or have been adopted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in a formal manner in 1963. We have codified the code. 1976, the Ethical Standard Board came into existence. And therefore, the journey of Code of Ethics or Ethical Standard in Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is, I can say, started long back. And as I said, the structure may be slightly different from the other accounting bodies because of the structure of the institute is under the Act of the Parliament. We already have schedule, as I mentioned, Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 to Chartered Accountants Act, which clearly specify the ethical principles. And naturally, when we say that principles of Code of Ethics, it has been codified in Volume 1 of our Code of Ethics. Volume 2 of our Code of Ethics actually lays down the practical aspects or the rule-based aspects. The Ethical Standard Board regularly meets and regularly decides about the principles as well as rules which have to be implemented in India. Now, as I mentioned, there are different states in India. There are different laws, national laws as well as state laws. And naturally, there are different kinds of bodies which are set up. Perhaps the cooperative societies may not be a bodies in many of the countries. So the laws have been set up in that respect, and therefore the auditor for such bodies also have to follow the respective laws. So Code of Ethics, when we specify rule-based Code of Ethics, we have to understand those laws and have set up that kind of a Code of Ethics or ethical principles considering those laws also. And therefore, Code of Ethics in India is in 3 volumes. Volume 1 contains the principles of Code of Ethics. Volume 2 is mainly on the local or practical aspects of the Code of Ethics based on the rules or the respective legal provisions. And Volume 3 recently we have introduced is the decided cases, decided disciplinary cases, which has been already decided by our disciplinary mechanism, and that gives another guidance for the accountants, chartered accountants, regarding the ethical principles. So Code of Ethics is divided in 3 parts. We are also guiding the Ethical Standard Board, is also guiding the chartered accountants, not only from the point of view of the standard setting, but making more proactive in terms of enabler. The Ethical Standard Board in India regularly meets every month. Every month, the meetings are held in a detailed manner, and it has two aspects. One, of course, regarding the setting the standard, having kind of a implementation of standard, and two, solving a lot of issues, ethical issues of our members, resolving or interpreting certain principles of ethics for the benefit of members. So I can say that the Ethical Standard Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is actually acting as an enabler in addition to the standard setting board. As I said, we already have our publications there in our ICAI pavilion. We are regularly bringing certain FAQs and certain publications regarding code of ethics. We conduct a lot of sessions. I was just asked in one of the sessions internationally that what kind of efforts we have to do for percolating down the ethical principles amongst the members. In fact, ICAI has been doing regular sessions for members on code of ethics. As far as CPD hours or CPE hours, as continuing professional education hours are concerned, the sessions on code of ethics are mandatory in India for at least two hours in a year. So in that sense, the Ethical Standard Board is a standard setter, a kind of a regulator, as well as the enabler of ethical principles amongst the members. I'm moving on to my second board, that is a Valuation Standard Board. As we all know, the valuation is gaining great importance in business, and so do the professional accountants or chartered accountants gaining a great importance in the valuation practice. In India, valuation has been, is a requirement in a different laws already. There's the FEMA regulations, there are income tax regulations, companies law. Now, as Pramod Bhai has mentioned, in this also certain interpretational, certain issues are there where the valuation is required. And in India, we have been doing valuation. But in order to have some kind of a standardized manner, in some kind of a, one can say, in a standardized valuation processes, the valuation standard boards, valuation standards was brought by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in 2018. As has been our process, there are certain principle-based, then there is a procedure-based, and then there are actual standards. So 100 series standards are principle-based definitions and evaluation basis, etc. 200 series standards are regarding the actual processes, and 300 series standards are actual standards regarding the business valuations, intangible assets, and financial instruments. Right now, the Valuation Standard Boards has brought out the standards on financial assets and securities. There is already a plan to bring about the standards on land and building and plant and machinery also. The Valuation Standard Board perhaps, ICAI may be perhaps the only accounting body in the world to set up the valuation standards. And we have been actually proactively interacting with, helping, and also jointly developing certain standards for SAFA bodies, SAFA member bodies. In India also, for various regulators, the valuation standard boards acting as a catalyst for implementation of valuation standards and bringing about standardization in valuation. Various regulators, or recently the telecom regulator also took a help of Valuation Standard Board to set up how to do the valuations for telecom towers. So in that way, we are also, as has been said, that acting as a nation building, and this, as per the vision of Honorable Prime Minister of India, valuation standards are Make in India, that is made in India standards, and I think one can always have a deliberations on that. I invite you for that purpose to ICAI Pavilion. You can get various publications of valuation standard boards as well as other boards also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us your valuable knowledge. I would now be requesting CA Gyan Misra ji, Vice Chairman of the Internal Audit Standards Board, to please deliver his address. A great round of applause, please.
Thank you, MOC. Very respected two stalwarts of the profession, two past presidents amongst us of ICAI, respected council colleagues on the dais and off the dais, Secretary ICAI and of course Secretary of the committees, and very respected participants from the country and of course the overseas participants who have come across to our country to enjoy the WCOA. Very good morning to all of you. Friends, standards are benchmarks being laid down for conduct to have best of practices for various stakeholders of the society at large. India, being the oldest economy and civilization of the world, has set its standards with regard to the economic, social, and cultural values across the globe. Let's spread the knowledge, and we have to establish the new standards across the globe, being the accountable accounting professional. Friends, with these words, being Vice Chairman of Internal Audit Standard Board, I put hereby my presentation before all of you. What is internal audit? Basically, we people are coming across this word, basic word across on daily basis. The definition and the expectation of the stakeholders from the internal auditor has been changed in the new era of auditing. We have been involved at different levels in internal audits throughout our professional journey, and there are so much evolution in the environment of internal audit due to change in technology and statutory legislature. So internal audit pace is altogether changed. Internal audit's value to both operations and governance of organizations is being recognized by all sectors throughout the world. There is major change in thought process of the internal audit. The responsibility of the internal auditor is also changed drastically because of the change of the expectation of the various stakeholders of the community. The basic expectation of the various stakeholders with regard to the management essentially wants an internal audit function that is insightful, forward-looking, and which is not afraid to go beyond pervasing current asset, but instead focus on creating value on departmental, divisional, or organizational level. To meet these expectations, internal auditors must strive to migrate to various advanced stages of maturity. This includes evolving the basic auditing processes and skills towards an approach of creating risk and bringing insights for an organization. At the same time, internal auditors should implement a stronger use of company-wide data mining and analysis tools and a more effective and efficient coordination and cooperation with other assurance functions with the organization. Top risk being where internal auditor plays a vital role. Risk is inevitable, and being auditor, we people are known as watchdog, and we plan that risks don't surprise you, but in case it comes in from nowhere, mitigate, write it, and manage it. This is the basic objective of ICAI and Internal Audit Standard Board. So friends, these are the basic areas where the internal audit plays vital role. Those include data privacy and security, ethics and culture, business continuity, fraud, product innovation, reputation and branding, employee relations, regulatory compliance, access to finance, outsourcing, and economic uncertainty. IASB has laid down various standards on internal audit. Standards on internal audit represent codification of the best practices in the field of internal audit. Application of standards on internal audit is recommended. These are aimed to increase the overall credibility, consistency, clarity, and comparability of the various work performed by the internal auditors. Standard setting board of ICAI. IASB has a robust and consultative process of developing and issuing standards of internal audit, working to equip CAs with critical knowledge for value-added internal audit services. Primary service functions include review internal audit practices worldwide, identify areas for developing standards on internal audit, formulate standards on internal audit, formulate guidance note on various issues relating to the internal audit, undertake research and knowledge dissemination activities across the ICAI level. Significant achievement of the IASB that I would like to discuss with you, though we have come a long way to go, but I would like to share what we have achieved so far. 22 new standards on internal audit has been issued. Concurrent audit course being a flagship course of IASB, 28,754 participants so far have done the concurrent certification course, refresher course on standard on internal audit, certificate course on internal audit launched, providing support to Ministry of Rural Development for conducting internal audit course for its officials, organized seminar, conferences, workshops, etc. in association with the regional council and their branches. So with these words, I present here with the works being undertaken by Internal Audit Standard Board. I hope that you people will enjoy the WCOA at the fullest extent, and if any member has any question, the panelists are here to reply the same. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. Now, as we conclude this session, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our esteemed panelists, CAAC Chakrabortti ji, CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, CA Mangesh P Kinare ji, CA Pramod Jain ji, CA Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singhal ji, and CA Gyan Misra ji. A great round of applause, please. And I would also like to thank all the present delegates and members here for their participation and making this session a resounding success. So a great round of applause. Now, I would also be requesting C. Rajendra Kumar PG, the Central Council member of ICAI, to please join us on stage. A great round of applause, please. Sir, we would like to have you on stage for honoring CAAC Chakrabortti ji, past president of ICAI. A great round of applause, please. Thank you so much, everybody. I once again would like to thank you all for your cordial cooperation. Also, anybody having any issues regarding this ongoing session, they can contact any of our panelists over here in the pavilion just right next to us. Thank you so much. Check, check. Check. I request all the members and delegates to please be seated. We're about to begin with this session in next minute.